Okay. So when you talk about database, a database will have two types of databases: system databases and user-defined databases. Okay. So every system, every SQL system, by default, it will be provided with some system databases. This will let you play with different types of DB operations. It's a kind of initial configuration provided with your database. So whatever is provided by the system, those are called system databases. Here like master, model, MSDB, and tempDB. And you can also create your own database. If you have created your own database, that is called as user-defined database that was created by the user. Read me. The database is created by the user, it will be called as user-defined databases. If the database is provided by the system, we should call it as system database. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. So when you talk about system databases, we have four databases: master, model, MSDB, and tempDB. Okay. So as I said, you can create your own database. If you're going to work for some client with a client name, you would create your own database. Now, as I said, to perform any DB operation, to play with your data, you would use a language called SQL. That is what I told you yesterday. SQL, SQL. SQL. SQL means structured query language. Structured query language, like your C# programming language. It comes with set of comments. Structured query language comes with set of comments. Each comment will take care of performing a unique operation. Every command will take care of performing a unique operation. For creating a database, there will be a separate dedicated command. For creating your table, a dedicated command is provided. Read me. For extracting your data, different commands are provided. For updating your data, there is a dedicated commands. For deleting your data, we have dedicated commands. So to perform each, so what I can do with data? What should I do with database? What can be done with database? Simple. What should I do? First, I have to create my table, store my data. Whenever I want to retrieve, I should retrieve my data in different ways according to different requirement. If I need to modify something, I should modify my data. If I need to delete something, I should delete my data. This is what you will do. Read me. So to support all these operations, your SQL provides different commands. So in order to work with your data, all you need to do is you need to know the different types of commands that are being provided by your structured query language and how to use them. This is what you need to know. Okay. And SQL is a common standard across all types of database servers. Whether it is SQL Server, Oracle, Sybase, MySQL, any database server, SQL is going to be common. Only some predefined built-in functions, syntax might get changed, but 90% of the things are going to be common from across all database servers. So if you're good in one database server, you can easily work with other database servers. Read me. So now we need to learn SQL. So how can create a database? You would use SQL. SQL is providing a dedicated command that will take care of creating your database. So in order to set up a new database, first what should I do? First, I have to create my new database. So in order to create a new database, we have a command provided by SQL. So whenever I execute that command, who will take care of creating my database? Master. Master means all databases will be controlled by a master piece called master database. It knows how to configure a new database, how to delete. Once it is deleted, what has to be done? Read me. So how to control all these databases? So that kind of operations will be performed by master database, because this has been designed with such type of configurations. Next, what is model? So we have a model database. Model. Whenever I say like, hey, create my database, what master will do? It will just create copy of model and give the name provided by the user. For example, I want to create a new database with employee. Now I'll tell the system using command, hey, create my database with employee. But internally, what happens? So master is the one who will take care of configuring your database. How does it configure? So there is another database called model. This is a model. Whenever someone says, hey, create my database, how to create the database? How many things are to be created inside the database? So what is the structure of this? So this is a model structure. So whenever you say create my database, what master will do? It will just create copy of model, and give the name as employee. If you say create a database with the employee, ready me? That is what master will do. Next, MSDB. So here we have a concept called SQL Server Agent. So we will be automating some offline processes. For example, over the night. So if you want to copy data from one system to another system, if something has to be automated, some process has to be automated, that can be done through a job. Later we will see that. So those jobs informations will be available under your MSDB. Read me. Jobs, their schedules, and all those stuff will be available under MSDB. Next, TempDB. So we have some temporary objects like temp tables, temp objects. So those things will be created under TempDB. Here you will have information about those your temporary objects. Okay. So to accommodate all this, so your SQL Server is providing these 4 databases. So later we will see when we create temp objects like temp tables. So that time you will see what is the use of TempDB. When you create jobs, that time you will see what is use of MSDB. Now we are going to create our new database that will be done with the combination of master and model. Okay. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
I'm going to delete all these things. Okay, let's create. So far we have only 4 user databases: employee DB, MAD, source DB, target DB. Okay. So these are user defined database created by user. Now let's create our own database. As I said, to perform any operation in database, you would use a separate command. Okay, you need to know those commands. So how do I create a database? For creating a new database, you would use a new command. What is that? Create database name. This is a command. Create database is a command which will take care of creating a new database. And give your database name. So it will create a new database with this name. Example, create database some customer. Now what it will do technically, who will create the database? Master will create the database. How does it create? First, it creates copy of model and rename that copy to customer. Whenever you say create database with the name customer, but internally what system will do? Creates copy of model and rename that to customer. Okay, let's write this. So where do I write this? Now I need an IDE to execute these commands. So here, if you go here, you can see, just right click on this, your databases. Here, new database. The beauty of SQL Server is you can create the things using wizard, and you could also create the things using your command, but don't use wizard always. Okay, so you need to be aware of each and every command. Okay, right. Now, new query. Click on new query. One editor will be open. Yeah, this is a place where you need to write your commands, execute your commands. What is my first command? Create database name customer. Okay, now how do I execute it? Select this command, either click on this execute like your Visual Studio, and shortcut key is F5. In Visual Studio also F5. Okay, you can use anything. See, command completed successfully means my base has been created successfully. Let's go and check. Just refresh databases. Right click on this, refresh. See, now I can see my database. Right? If you expand it, you will see the complete structure. How many things can be placed inside a database? Database diagrams. If you're creating multiple tables, You can also define the relationship between multiple tables. You can create ER diagram, entity relationship diagrams. As of now, there are nothing. We didn't create anything. And first I need to create tables. All other things are depends on this. The first thing to be created in your database is table, right? So here you can create tables. Once table is created, then I can create views. I can play with synonyms, programmability, and other stuff. Okay. So all we need to do is first you have to create your table. As I said, for every operation, there is a command. How do I create my table? If you want to create your table, what is a table? Table will have collection of rows and columns. The first row is going to have headers, means column names. We call it as fields. Something like customer ID, customer name, read me, gender. But when it comes to customer ID, it is a number. Customer name will have collection of characters. Gender will have single character. So the data type differs from field to field, column to column. Who is this? 1940. Is that you, Santu or Sridhar? Dantu or Sridhar? Is that you? Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Who is this 94033? Is that you or Sridhar?
940. Not me.
Okay. Meno is this 94033? Okay, anyway.
No,
Uh,
not me.
monkey soon.
Sorry, that's my number.
Sridhar.
I got disconnected from
Okay.
the phone. That's why, yeah.
Soon. Okay. Now, the data type differs from field to field, column to column. So like your C#, here also you have to take the control over your memory and you have to manage the memory properly. When it comes to customer ID, it might require less amount of memory. When it comes to customer memory, it might require more than what we have allocated to customer ID, right? So here also you need to manage the things properly, manage your memory properly. If you want to manage it properly, so what has to be done? You have to make use of data types. In SQL also, we have set up data types provided. When it comes to number, integer especially, you can define it as teeny int, small int, big int. Read me. Same, your int 16, int 32, int 64. Next, when it comes to float, we have float, decimal. Okay, same thing, same data types. But when it comes to string, here we have char and varchar. This is very, very important. Char and varchar. What is the difference between char and varchar?
Limit.
So, for example,
Character limit.
yeah, for example, the main difference between char and varchar is you can use whenever you want to store a string, you can use any of these. For example, in case of char, let's say I define char of the size as 10. Now, what it will do? It will create 10 locations. It will create 10 locations. In one of the scenario, I'm using varchar. I'm using size as 10. Here also it will create 10 locations. In one of the scenario, I'm storing the name as Ramu. How many locations it requires? 1, 2. It has 4 characters. It requires only 4 locations. So these 4 characters will be filled into first 4 locations. What about remaining 6 locations? In case of char, it will immediately create 10 locations and that much amount of memory will be allocated. Right? But here I stored only 4 characters. What about remaining 6 characters? That memory will be hold. You'll be wasting that memory. So whatever is left over, that will not be released immediately. Are you with me? So there will be lots of memory wasted. If you fill all those locations, if you are utilizing all the locations, then you're good. If you are not utilizing all those locations, then there will be a lot of memory loss. Are you with me? So what char will do? Char doesn't do anything. If some locations are empty, then it will leave it as is. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. Are you with me? For example, in our case, only 4 locations got filled. What about remaining 6 locations? Still, it will be holding. It doesn't release any location. So 6 locations memory will be wasted. So what varchar do? Whatever is filled, the size can be anything. Whatever is not filled, those locations will be released immediately. Those locations will be released immediately. Now, what would you prefer, char or varchar? For example,
Varchar.
when it comes to customer name, what should I consider? Char or varchar? Customer name will have collection of characters. It is a string data type. Now, what should be my data type? Char or varchar?
Varchar.
Varchar.
Why varchar? You're right. Why varchar?
Because names will not be that much.
Exactly. Name gets number of character of name gets different from person to person. That's why better to go with varchar. And what should be the data type of gender?
Just char, because male and female only 2.
Very good. Very good. When it comes to gender, still you can use varchar. It is always going to be MFO, male, female, other. It doesn't differ from person to person. It will always have only 3 possible options and only single character. For every person, it is going to be either M or F or O. It is going to be fixed for every person, every customer. So if the size is going to be fixed, then char is the right option, because varchar comes with some additional functionality which will take care of identifying, releasing unused locations. So char is a lightweight component compared to varchar. Char doesn't contain that additional functionality. Are you getting me? It is a lightweight component. So everything has to be loaded into main memory, right? Your data types also, everything, right? So it contains additional functionality. So it will definitely take some memory more than char. It requires some additional processing, right? So if you are really sure about if the size is going to be fixed in all the cases, char is the right option. Or you can save some execution time, you can save some memory. If the size is going to be differed from person to person, then varchar is the right option. You got it right? Any questions, guys?
Yes, sir. Yes. No,
Okay.
no.
And we have a special data type being provided in the databases that is called money. If you are going to store amount, money related data, make use of money. So you can store them using their symbols like dollar, rupee. Okay. And how do I store Boolean values? Here it is going to be bit. Here it is going to be bit. Bit is nothing but your Boolean, true, false. Whenever you want to store true, false values, bit you have to use. Then you have text data type. For example, we have the CV of the customer, resume. I want that complete file has to be stored into one of the column. So get that converted into text. You can store that entire document as a text. Already, entire document as a text. So you can store maximum of 8,000 characters. In case of var character, in case of var also, you can store. This can be stored. When it comes to text, text can be stored using varchar, and that can also be stored using text. What is the difference between these two? For example, I want to store the complete document in one of my column, the complete document text. So get that converted into text. You can use either varchar or text, but the difference is varchar has limitation. It can hold maximum of 8,000 characters, but your resume can have more than 8,000 characters. It can have logos. It can have some special characters. Are you with me? So that's why varchar is not the right option. Better go with text. Here we have text and end text. If you're going to store a plain text, make use of text. There is no limitation. You can store a number of characters. If you want to store some special characters like Chinese letters, it is a kind of a rich data type. N means it accepts everything. N means it accepts everything, irrespective of the characters, irrespective of the special characters. Okay. If you want to store a complete document, make use of text or end text, or we also have binary and V binary. Binary data and V binary. If you want to store a song or video, image, better get them converted into binary. But nowadays we are storing those things in the original format somewhere in some server. Only location of those files are being stored in the database. But you can also store the complete video, audio, image into your database. How do you store it? Get that converted into binary data and get them stored into your database using binary and V binary. Any questions, guys?
No.
Okay. Now let's create a database. We have already created a database and let's create our table. So what are the things that I need to know if I want to create my table? So you should ask them, what are the columns to be there? You should ask them to provide their requirement. How many columns to be there? What is the name of each column? And what type of data is going to come to each column? This is what you need to know if you want to create a table. Okay. Okay. Let's start creating it. For creating table, you need to follow a syntax. That is going to be a command called create table, table name. Create table, table name, and parentheses. And within this, you're saying, hey, create a new table with this name. And you should also tell the system how many columns to be created and what are the names of those columns, how much data type has to be, how much space has to be allocated for each and every column. Okay. So give column name 1, and how much space has to be allocated to this column. It means data type of this column, comma, column name 2, and how much space has to be allocated. So data type of second column. So like this, you can keep on giving a number of columns. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay.
No.
Column name and how much space has to be allocated for this column. Okay. Let's create this. Create table, table name, let's say customer details. What is my first column? Customer ID. And what is the type of this? It is a number. So I'm giving it as int. Next, customer name. What should be the data type of customer name? Char or varchar? Guys,
Varchar, sir.
Customer name is varchar.
why? It can be differed from person to person. Say I'm giving it as 50. Next, gender. So what should be the data type of gender?
Char.
Gender is char.
Right. So number of characters are going to be fixed. So here we can make use of char of 1. I want to store something like MFO, male, female, and other. Customer ID, customer name, and gender. Okay. So later we can add a few more. Okay. Gender. Okay. Now click on execute. Where should I create this table? Right now it is pointed to master database. So if I create this table, where it will be created? Inside master. Here you can see. So what should I do? I have to select this from, I have to select my database because this has to be created inside my database. There are two options. Either you can use a command that is use your database name. What is your database name? Customer. Use customer. Okay. Use customer. Next, create table. So what it will do, it will change your database to customers. If I say use customer, execute it. What happened? So here it got changed to customer. Here you can see it got changed to customer. Are you reading me? Either I can use this or I can select it manually from here. Okay. So now what happens? Whatever you are doing here, it will get executed inside your customer. So create table, customer details. I'm going to have, my table is going to have 3 columns: customer ID, customer name, gender. Now select this command and execute it. Command completed successfully. It means your table has created. Just go to your database. This is my database, right? Refresh your tables. Expand it. Now I can see my first table, customer. DBO dot customer details. What is DBO? DBO is the owner of this table. DBO is the owner of this table. If you want to, in place of DBO, if you want to give your own name, yes, you can do that. Here we have a concept called schemas. You can create your own schema and give your own name. You can create own schema and you can give that. Instead of DBO, you can give some A, B, C, or you can your client name. That can also be possible. Create schema, schema name. Once that schema is created, you can start using it. Okay. Okay. My table got created. Expand it. Now you can see your column. Customer ID. What is the data type? Int. Customer name, gender. Right? Now you know how to create a table. Now let's see how to insert data into your table. How to insert data into your table. So as I said, for each and every operation, you would write a command. How do I insert a new record into my table? Insert into. You would use a command called insert into. Table name. What is the table name? This is a syntax. Table name of what columns has to be inserted? Column 1, column name. Column 2, column 3. And values. What has to be inserted into column 1? What has to be inserted into column 2? Here, 1 has to be inserted into column 1. You have to provide in the same order. Next, if it is a character or string, it has to be provided within single quotes. Some Prakash. Next, male. Okay. So if it is a character, a special character, collection of characters should be provided using single quotes. Now what happens? You should provide the column names. Okay. Column 1 will be inserted into column 1. Prakash will be inserted into column 2. This will be inserted into column 3. Okay. So let's see. Insert into customer details. Okay. And what has to be inserted? Customer ID. Customer name. You should provide the column names. To which columns you want to insert data? Your table can have 100 different columns. Are you getting me? So if you're not going to send data for all 100 columns, you have to specify the column names. Okay, to which columns you are going to fill the data? Customer name and gender. Values. For customer ID, 1. Customer name, Prakash. Gender, male. Right? Now, one will be inserted into this. And Prakash will be inserted into this. And will be inserted into this. Now execute this. One row affected means one row got executed. So how do I see my data? So here you would use another command. What is that? Select column names. Select column names. You would provide what column has to be selected. And from table name. This is a syntax. Select column names. For example, my table is having 100 columns. I don't want to select data for 100 columns. I want to see the data for only 2 or 3 columns. In this case, you have to specify the column names like column 1, column 5, and column 60. Right? So if you want to extract the data of specific columns, you have to provide column names from table name, employee, department, customer details, your table name. You're saying that, hey, select these columns from this table. If you want to select only few columns, then column names has to be specified explicitly. If you want to select all columns at a time, you don't have to specify any column name. Rather, specify star. Select star from table name. Star means it will extract all columns. Any questions, Dave? Any
No,
questions?
no.
Okay. Now let's select star from customer details. Execute this command. See, customer ID 1, customer name Prakash, gender male. Let's insert some more records. 2. Done 2. Inserted. Right? Customer ID. Next. 3. Sridhar. For Sridhar, actually, when it comes to employee ID or customer ID, it should be unique. Right? So, in your organization, there can be thousands of employees. Every time, I should assign a unique value to every customer. Right? For example, what is the customer ID of Dantu 2? Whenever new employee joins my organization, if I want to insert his record into database, what should be his customer ID? Now every time I should go to database and see this. Oh, what is the last customer ID that we have assigned? Oh, it is 2. Now I should give it as 3. Right? Every time you have to go to your database, check it and assign it manually. This will become a problem. For example, if I forget to assign the same number to Sridhar also, what happens? It accepted. Now, same customer ID assigned to more than one employee. This leads to a problem. And every time I have to look into this manually. Every time I have to go to this table, check the last customer ID that we have assigned last time. And based on that, I should assign it manually. This is a problem. You're going to automate your process, right? For example, if you take Facebook, the user ID should be unique. And that should be generated automatically by the system. Millions of people will be registering their users. Millions of people will be accessing the Facebook. So if you start doing it manually, what happens? Think about this. How much time it is going to be consumed? And if you are failed to provide the unique number, what happens? That leads to a problem. Same number will be allocated to more than one user. Because your customer ID is one of the unique field in this table. It should be unique. Are you getting me? So that's why what has to be done? I don't want to provide this. Are you getting me? So I don't want to provide this number. What has to be done? Rather, this number has to be generated automatically by the system. This number has to be provided automatically by the system. I just want to tell where to start and every time how to increment it. If you look into this, it started from 1 and every time it is getting incremented with 1. I just will tell only that whenever a new record is inserted, I don't want to provide this value. Rather, it should be generated automatically by the system. In that case, I don't have to remember that. And we can minimize the risk of adding duplicate customer IDs. Are you following me, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how do I do this? So this can actually through a special property called identity property, where you need to provide where to start and every time how to increment it. If I say 1 comma 1, it will start from 1, every time it will be incremented with 1. If I say 1 comma 2, it will start from 1, every time it will be incremented with 1. If I say 100 comma 1, it will start from 100, every time it will be incremented with 1. Okay, so if you want, that value has to be generated automatically, incremented automatically by the system. There you need to consider that particular column as identity property. Are you with me? I mean, while designing your table, in our case, customer ID should have the identity property because this should be generated automatically whenever a new record is added to the table. So customer ID should be considered as identity property. Okay, so let's drop this table, delete this table and recreate it again. So if you want to delete it, again, you have to use another command. What is that command? We have another command called drop table name. Okay, drop table name. Drop table. What is my table name? Customer details. Table got dropped. It means deleted. Now, if I say select star from table, what happens? It is saying invalid object name because this is no longer exist. You already deleted, right? Now, what should I do? I have to recreate my table. See, here I'm recreating it again with identity property. Customer int. Here I have to give identity. I want to add identity property. While adding it, what should I do? I should specify where to start, where to end. 1 comma 1. Identity, not identity. Okay, customer ID, type is int, and I'm adding automatic nature, identity. What it will do? So whenever you first employee is inserted, it will start from 1. Every time it will be incremented with 1 automatically. So you don't have to provide any value to customer ID. It will be generated automatically by the system. All I need is earlier we used to provide value to customer ID. Now you can stop providing it because it will be generated automatically by the system. You just need to provide customer name and other fields. Okay, let's create this. Create it. Okay, now I can stop providing this. Now say select star from customer details. We haven't inserted any record. It is empty. Now we are going to insert our first employee, Sridhar. Now I don't have to supply any value to customer ID. I just need to supply values for other columns because it will be generated automatically. Now see, executed. Select star from, see the data. See, 1 is assigned automatically. Next, Dantu. Are you reading me? So you don't have to remember this every time. So unique numbers will be automatically generated. Okay. Any questions, guys?
I know.
So this is something about your identity property. Next, yeah, the problem is I'm going to insert another record, but I'm not providing any name. I forgot to provide the name. Will it be accepted? It got accepted. Now, is it possible a customer without name? Is it possible?
No, sir.
So you should always minimize the risk. We are human beings. We might forget to supply something. See, I forget to supply his name, but it got accepted. Can you imagine a name, a customer without name? Right? So like your identity property, this should also be taken care. So before inserting any data, The table should not accept anything blindly. It should validate some business rules. Based on our requirement, we should add some business rules. If any record comes without name, it should not be accepted. It is accepting null values, empty values. But I cannot check it every time, right? I cannot check it manually, because when you take Facebook kind of applications, thousands of users will be registering their user IDs. So verification of this thing, this business rule, should be done automatically by the system. Next, I'm providing some name. When it comes to gender, there should be only three possible options: M, F, O. I entered it as X. Let's see, will it be considered? Still it got accepted. What is meant by X? Are it? So whenever this record is inserted, it should also take care of verifying the gender. Whatever the value supplied should be either M, F, or 0. If it is other than those three possible values, it should not be accepted. It should be rejected. Are you getting me? So based on different type of data, you will be having different types of requirements. Before inserting any record into your table should take care of verifying certain business rules like this. And this verification should be done automatically. The moment when you insert your record, when you try to insert your record, it should take care of verifying all those business rules. If all those rules are satisfied, then only your record has to be inserted into the table. Otherwise, it should not be inserted. So how do I perform this? So these rules can be implemented using a special triggers. These are called validations. Business rule, verifying a business rule is nothing but a validation. These validations can be handled automatically using a special type of triggers are called constraints. Constraints. What is a constraint? Constraint is a special type of trigger which will take care of performing some action. Whenever the situation occurs, it will be triggered automatically, which will take care of performing that respective action. So we have different types of constraint support provided in SQL, not only SQL, everywhere, in every database. Okay, this is very important, constraints. The first one is going to be not null constraint. And second one is going to be unique. Third one is going to be primary key. And fourth one is going to be check. Fifth one is going to be foreign key. And sixth one is going to be default. Right? So these are the system defined triggers that are being provided by your SQL to support your basic validations. Okay. Now let's go through one by one. In case of this thing, your name, according to our requirement, name should not be null. Name should not be null. And this validation has to be taken care automatically whenever the record gets inserted into your table. If it is not null, then only it has to be inserted. If it is null, it should not be inserted. Are you getting me? Okay. So if that has to be done automatically, you have to make use of your first constraint called not null. Okay. So how do I implement this? So drop your table again. My table got dropped. Okay. And create your table. While creating it, now I want this should not be null. Wherever your data should not be null, there you need to add a constraint called not null constraint. How do I add it? Not null. Okay. This is shortcut. You can also give by default, whenever you keep any constraint, by default, system will assign system name to that constraint. If you want to give your own name, you can give something like this. Constraint name, let's say NN underscore not null, then constraint. So what it will do, you're keeping a not null constraint. I'm giving some specific name. Now what happens? One constraint will be created on this column with this name. You can give any name. Or if you do not give this, it will be accepted. But by default, some system name will be given to your not null constraint. Whenever you want to delete this constraint using their name, it will become little difficult because we cannot remember system name. If I give my own name, whenever I don't need it, if I need to delete it, I can delete it using its name. That's why if you want, you can give names to your constraints. Now what happens? We are keeping not null constraint. Not null constraint is one of the trigger, system defined trigger. Now we are adding a trigger on this call. We're adding a trigger on this particular column. What it will do, it will just keep on watching. It will just keep on watching the activity that is being done on customer name. So whenever any value comes to customer name, it will check whether it is null or not. If it is null, it will not be accepted. Straight away, it will be rejected. So this will take care of validating customer name. Is it clear, guys? Any questions?
No, sir.
Let's check this.
No.
It's created. Now you can see this. Now in your table, there are too many things, right? If you expand it, inside your table, you can create these many things. You can create columns, you can create keys, you can create constraints, you can create triggers, you can create indexes, you can also create statistics, right? So if I go to columns, here I can see this is null, but this is not null. Here you can see it has not null. Not null means, hey, this column is having not null constraint. So it is mandatory field. It means it is mandatory. For example, if you are going to register with Facebook or Google, if you're on the registration piece, there some fields will be highlighted with star, like first name, last name, gender. Star means those are mandatory field. User should provide the data for those. Alright. So if you want to make any field as mandatory, you have to add not null constraint on that field. Now let's try to insert a null value. This is database null. Insert into customer details. Some 1, comma, null. What happened? There are fewer columns in the statement. It throws the error. See, record did not get inserted. Inserted, not inserted. It is throwing the error. Sorry, customer ID. You should also give the column name. What it is in? Cannot insert the value null into customer name. It is saying, hey, you cannot insert null values. See, get rejected. It is not inserted. Now, if I provide some value, now it will be inserted. This is not null. Okay. Next. For Dantu, I assign number 1. For Sridhar also, I am trying to give the same name. I forget to give the same name. What happened? Same customer ID is assigned to more than one person. So it means some duplicate data got inserted. You're assigning duplicate customer ID. Duplicate customer ID. I want this to be unique. It should not be duplicated. And this should also be taken care automatically by the system. Whenever, for example, if I want to have only unique values in a particular column, whenever I insert some duplicate value, the same value which is already inserted, it should not be accepted. Are you with me? If the same value, if you try to insert the same value again, that has to be every time whenever I insert any value, that has to be validated against set of existing values. If that already exists, it should be rejected. If that doesn't exist, then only it should be accepted. Basically, my data should be unique. So if you want to store only unique values into any column, and if whenever you want, like every time, if that value has to be cross-checked with the existing data, if your data has to be identified uniquely, then you would make use of another constraint that is called unique. It will take care of inserting only unique values. Whenever you try to insert anything, every time it will be compared against existing values. If that already exists, you are not accepted. That value will not be inserted. If that doesn't exist, then only it will be inserted. So how do I do this? Same thing. So drop your table, recreate it again. See, now it is accepting, right? Now it is accepting. You can insert n number of duplicate values, right? Which is not good. It should be unique. Okay, let's see. Let's drop this table and recreate it again with another constraint. Okay, here I'm going to keep unique constraint. Constraint name. Let's say CID. You can give any name. Unique. What is this? Unique. Now what it will do? It will create a unique constraint with this name on customer ID. Now it will keep on watching the values coming to customer ID. Every time, whenever any new value comes to customer ID, what this will do? It will take care of comparing that with existing values. If that exists already, then it throws the error. If that doesn't exist, then it will be inserted. Okay, now we have two constraints placed on our table. One is not null on customer name and unique on this. Okay, now let's insert this. Okay, number one already inserted. Now I'm going to add next customer Dantu. I'm trying to give the same number. What happened? Violation of unique key constraint. Cannot insert duplicate key. It is saying that you're trying to insert the duplicate key, which is already assigned to other customer. Let's see where that record got inserted. No, not inserted. Any questions, guys?
No.
No, sir.
Okay. So wherever you need to store unique data, there you can make use of unique constraint. You should add unique constraint on that particular column. Okay. Next. Yes. When you talk about unique, the beauty of unique is it identifies everything uniquely. It will ensure that it is inserting only unique data. But the problem is it allows null value. For example, if I give null value, okay, it allows null value. It got accepted. But do you think a customer ID can be null? No. Read me. It allows null value. It identifies unique data. But next time, if I try to insert the null again, then it will think as a duplicate because null is already there. If you try to insert one more null, then it will not be accepted. But one null will be accepted. The first null will be accepted, right? So that's why on customer ID, what should be the nature of my customer ID? Data should be unique and it should not be null. If you don't want this to be null, which constraint has to be kept? Not null. If you want this to be unique, which constraint is required? Unique. But here it requires a kind of both the natures. It should be unique and it should not be null. It means we need to have two constraints, unique plus not null. Are you following me? It should be unique and it should not be null. So we should have some kind of nature like unique plus not null. But technically, you cannot keep more than one constraint on a single column. Already, in order to make it unique, I should keep a unique constraint. And if you don't want null value has to be accepted, you would keep a not null. So technically, I have to keep two constraints on customer ID, unique plus not null. But you cannot keep more than one constraint on any column. That's why what SQL has done, it has designed a special constraint called primary key. What is primary key? Which is nothing but unique plus not null. Wherever you need to implement this nature, if your data should be unique and should not be null, then make use of primary key. If I keep primary key, it will achieve the responsibility of both the constraints, unique and not null. Many interviews will ask this question: what is the difference between unique and primary key? Primary key is nothing but unique plus not null. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, what kind of constraint is required here? Not unique. It is going to be primary key. Wrap this table and recreate it again. So it is going to be primary key, which is nothing but not null plus unique. Okay. Now insert into this one executed. Again, if I try to insert the duplicate value, not accepted. So it is achieving the mechanism of your unique. Now try to insert null value. Not accepted. It is also achieving the mechanism of not null. So basically, it is achieving the responsibility of both unique and not null. Okay, so it should be unique and should not be null. Then only it will be accepted. It got accepted. So mostly on key-based columns in any table, you will be creating a primary key. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. Next, what about this gender? See, when it comes to gender, there should be only three possible values: M, F, O. Whenever any value comes to gender, always it should be validated against only these possible values. If it is either M, F, or O, then only it has to be accepted, otherwise it should be rejected. Every time the value has to be compared with these three possible values. If that exists in these three possible values, then accept it, otherwise reject it. So what has to be done here? You would keep set of possible values. That is going to be MFO. And it can be anything based on your scenario. But in our case, it is MFO. Whenever any value comes to gender column, that has to be verified against these set of possible values. If that is there in this list, should be accepted. Otherwise, it should be rejected. So whenever you want to validate a value against set of possible values before inserting it into your table, then you need to go through another constraint, which is called check constraint. Check. It will check. Whenever any new value comes, it will check whether that new value exists in this list of possible values or not. If that doesn't exist, it will be rejected. If that exists, it will be accepted. Okay, let's see. Let's drop this. So here, on gender, which constraint is required? Check constraint is required. Okay. Now let's drop and recreate it again. Create table. Customer name, gender. On gender, we need check constraint. Constraint. Constraint name. You can give something like GCK. What type of constraint it is? Check. What has to be checked? Check gender in, give list of possible values. M, F, O. So we are saying that check whether gender in these three possible values or not. You can give anything, but according to my requirement, it should be either M or F or O. So what it will do? Now, an agent, a trigger will be created, check constraint will be created on this column. It will keep on watching. Whenever any new value comes, it will check whether that value exists in this list or not. What is there in this list, it will be accepted. Otherwise, it will not be accepted. This is the use of check constraint. Whenever you need to validate a particular value against set of list of possible values, then we require a check constraint. We need one more. It got created, right? Now, there is nothing in your table. Let's insert this 1 AD. Now, it should be M, F, or O. If I try to send X, what happened? Insert statement configure check constraint GK. It means this is violated. It doesn't accept your X value. See, nothing got inserted. Right? Now, if I send M, inserted. Right? Next 2. Even if I send mail also, it will not be accepted. Are you with me? What is this error? Stringer binary data would be truncated. The size of this is only 1 character, but you are trying to send more than 1 character. Okay, it will accept only M, F, O. If you enter A, will not be accepted. That is the nature of check. Next, default constraint. What is default? It's like your optional parameter. It's like your optional parameter. When user doesn't supply anything, if some default value has to be considered, then you can always keep some default value. Okay, something like this. So in place of this, for example, not null, I want to keep default of some ABC. So what it will do? If you do not supply any value, by default, this will be considered like your optional parameter. Okay, so next and last one is foreign key constraint. Okay, this is very important. Let's see. Now, I'm going to drop this table. Here, we have 3 departments in our organization: IT, BPO, and finance. I'm going to create a table called department. Create department, create table, department. Department ID, int. This is identity column. I'm making it as primary key. Next, department name, varchar of 50. Next, location, where it is located, varchar of 100. I created my table with 3 columns: department ID, department name, and location. It got created. So initially, when I start my organization, first I should set up everything, right? First, I should set up my departments. Then I will start recruiting the people into respective departments. IT people will be recruited into IT department, and customer service people will be placed into BPO, and finance people will be placed into finance department. So first, I should configure my department before customer details. Okay, I have configured my table. Now I am configuring it. Insert into department. So department ID is identity. You just need to supply department name and location. Values. Let's say IT, department name IT, location USA. Next, BPO, location India, Hyderabad. Next, finance, India, Bangalore. Right? Now select star from department. So this is what our organization. Our organization has only 3 departments: IT, BPO, finance. Right? So whenever I recruit a new employee, okay, so he should be either part of IT or part of BPO or part of finance, right? Now, I'm going to create a table called employee, not customer details. I'm going to create a table called employee, right? It is going to be employee ID, employee name, EMP name, gender, and I'd like to add another column. Okay. That is department ID, because while creating his record, I should map him to respective department. He should go to either BPO or IT or finance, right? I'm giving it as department ID int. Okay. Now let's create this. Right? Our table got created. Select star from employee. Now there are no records, right? Now I'm going to insert the first employee into the organization. So insert into employee. What has to be inserted? Employee ID. Okay, let's make it identity. Okay, drop the table, drop table employee. Let's recreate it. Employee ID int, make it identity so that it will be generated automatically by the system. Okay, employee name and gender. Right. Now select star from employee. Nothing is there, right? Insert into employee. What has to be inserted? Employee ID will be automatically generated, so no need to insert it. We need to insert employee name, comma, gender, comma, department ID. So values for these columns: employee name, let's say Dantu, gender male, next department ID. So here we have to check how many departments are there, because we have only 3 departments. 1, 2, 3. You should belongs to either department 1, department 2, or department 3, right? So now this guy is recruited for IT, so his department ID is going to be 1. Now insert it. Right? Now select star from employee. Perfect. Next, Sridhar. This guy belongs to actually finance department. Department number 3. He is recruited for department 3. But what I did, I forgot to enter the right value. I provided it as 4. What happens? It got accepted. It got accepted. But technically, is there any department with department number 4? We have only 3 departments, 1, 2, 3. But I mapped this guy to 4th department. Technically, it doesn't exist. Are you getting me? It doesn't exist. So this entry is going to be invalid. We may make the mistakes like this. To avoid these kind of mistakes, what has to be done? Whenever I insert this department ID, it has to be cross-checked with its master table. The department ID of employee should be cross-checked with department ID of department table. It should check whether this particular department exists in department table or not. If this doesn't exist, that entry has to be rejected. It should not be saved. Are you with me? So every time this has to be cross-checked with its master table called department. Are you following me, guys?
Yes, sir.
Right? Here we made a mistake. This should not be done. Right? We may make the mistakes. See, manual entry is always a human prone, like error prone. Right? So how can we overcome this issue? So what has to be done to avoid this kind of issues? Every time, this has to be cross-checked with the master table automatically. So if you want, this has to be validated against its master table. Then you should create a relationship between your employee table and master table. Child, your employee will become child. Child table and master table. Your child table is employee, master table is department. So you have to, if you want, the department of ID of employee has to be cross-checked automatically with department to ensure it exists in the department. You have to establish a relation between employee and department. How do I establish this? So that establishment can be done through a key called foreign key. It will ensure the referential integrity. This is called referential integrity. The process of ensuring this value exists in the master table. Here we are making sure that department ID of employee existing in department table. The value of child table exists in the parent table. This process is called as referential integrity. Are you with me? So through foreign key, what can we do? We can achieve the referential integrity. What foreign key will do? Foreign key will establish the relationship between your child table and parent table, and it will take care of verifying this data, child column data against parent column data. Are you with me? If that exists, then only it will accept this, otherwise it will reject it. So every time whenever you supply a value to department ID, what foreign key will do? Immediately it will go to your parent table and check whether this value exists in the parent table or not. If that exists, that record will be saved. It will be accepted. Otherwise, it will be rejected straight away. Okay. Now, how do I do this? So let's recreate this. Drop this table again. Okay. Now let's recreate it. Simple. Here, department ID. What is the column of the department table? Department ID only. Right. Now, what has to be done? Department ID of employee should be verified with department ID of department table. So you have to specify that. Create a constraint. Which type of constraint? Foreign key. Constraint name. Let's say I'm just giving it as EMPFK, foreign key. What is the constraint name? Foreign key. FOREIGN. What is my constraint? Foreign key. Here you have to specify. This has to be cross-checked with which table? That is called references. Which table has to be referred? Give your key references where it has to be validated. So it has to refer department table, department ID column. You have to provide it. Department. What is the table name? Department. And which column? Department ID. So we are saying that whenever any value comes to this department ID, this has to be cross-checked with department ID column of department table. So that's why we are saying that this will establish the relation between your department ID of employee and department ID of department. So now the relation will be established between these two tables, these two columns. Who will establish it? Foreign key. What it will do? References, department of department. So every time, whenever any new value comes to a department ID, it will take care of cross-checking this with department ID of department. You will check whether this value exists in this column values or not. If that exists, it will be accepted. Otherwise, it will be rejected. Any questions?
No, sir.
Now see,
No.
it got inserted. Now select star from employee. Okay, let's try this. Sridhar M1. So 1 exists. So no issues. It will be accepted. Right? So 1 accepted because we have department ID 1. Let's try to insert another employee. Department number is 4. Does it exist? No. What your foreign key will do? Every time it will go to department table and cross check. Now let's try to insert invalid department. What happened? Thrown the error. Insert statement conflicted with foreign key. Foreign key has thrown the error. Are you to me? Why? Department 4 does not exist. That's why your record not inserted into your table. If I supply the valid one, now it will be inserted. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
No.
So if you are aware of these 6 constraints, you can always make a better design for your table. Whenever someone asks you to create a table, what you should do? You have to collect the requirement. What is that requirement? How many columns are going to be there? What is the name of each column? What type of data is going to come to each column? And are there any special business rules? Because you need to keep constraints. If they say like, hey, for this column, I'm looking for only these possible values. If something comes other than this, should not be accepted. Then what should I use? I should use check constraint. And you should ask them, hey, okay, you told me that this table is going to have 10 fields. Out of 10 fields, do we have any mandatory field where the value should not be null? It will tell you, okay, this is a registration P. So your first name is mandatory, father name is mandatory, gender is mandatory. Now what should I do? I should keep not null constraint. And are there any unique columns? Or unique plus not null columns? Are you with me? So you will have to gather these kind of requirements, and based on that, you have to decide the type of your each column of your table. And you should also define like what kind of business rules has to be placed on your columns. This is what you need to take care while creating, while designing your table. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay,
No.
I'm expecting you to create some tables. Okay, just go to Google registration page, Gmail or Facebook registration page, right? So there you will see something like this. For example, new Facebook or Instagram registration. Join Facebook. What it is asking? First name. If I do not enter this and click and sign up, why it is showing a red one? See, if I click and sign up, what it is saying? What's your name? So whatever is highlighted with red color, these are all mandatory fields. I mean, I should enter my first name, last name, email address, new password, date of birth,
Not.
and gender. Are you with me? So design a table with proper constraints. When it comes to email ID, it should be unique. When it comes to first name and last name, what kind of constraint has to be placed on these 2 fields?
Not null.
Very good. When it comes to mobile number, email address, it should be unique, right? Which constraint is required?
Primary key. Not
Very
null
good.
and
Because if you give a unique, one null value will be accepted. If it should not be null, it should be unique, primary key. And password is mandatory, right? Next,
not null.
date of birth. You have date field also. Along with these data columns, data types, we also have date time. Okay. We also have date time. Okay, like your C#. Okay, and go to Google. Design this table. This is the exercise for you. Okay, so please create a table to accommodate these fields. Next, Gmail registration. Create account. See, first name, last name, username, password. Take another registrations which contains more number of fields. Okay, it is also similar to your Facebook. Okay, here you can find out n number of things. Okay, so create at least 2 tables today using all constraints. Make use of every constraint that we discussed today. Okay,
Okay, sir.
right. Okay, guys, we'll meet tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.